Hello everybody, this is Bob Probst with the Probst Law Firm. Today is Wednesday, June 25th, I believe. It's 4 o'clock and this is another installment of the Wednesday at 4 live Facebook post that we're doing to offer people information about the law that you might find helpful. As I've told you in the past, each Wednesday at 4 o'clock I will try to go live and speak about some subject on the law. Today, I'm not in my office, as you see. I have decided to vary the background a little bit, and I am actually at home sitting in my backyard underneath a shade tree. I left the office a little bit early today and decided to do this one from home. So what's today's topic for the Wednesday Live? Today's topic is, how is child support determined in North Carolina? So we have lots of clients. We do a lot of family law. We have lots of clients come in and either they're being asked to pay child support, so they need to know how much that's going to be, or they're the spouse requesting child support, so they want to know how much they can get, or we have a party will come in and want to modify child support, so they want to know how they can modify it. So pretty much with every case in North Carolina where there's a division of or divorce, there's going to be child support dealt with if you have minor children. So let's ask the question, how is child support determined in North Carolina? It's really pretty simple now. The Council of District Court Judges get together every so often, and they put together guidelines for what the judges should use to determine child support in North Carolina. And those guidelines are written down, and they use a mathematical formula, and they take into consideration sort of the cost of living in North Carolina, the cost of living for raising kids in North Carolina, and they come up with this formula to be able to determine in any given case how much a party should be paying for child support. So the next question we get from people is, okay, if it's a formula, what variables are considered in those formulas? You know, what are they looking at? And it's really quite simple. There's about 5 or 6 different things generally, but the first thing they look at is the parent's income, both the mom and the dad. They'll look at your income. If you're not working but you can work, they'll look at what you potentially can earn as an income. But let's just keep the case simple and say you got a mom and a dad who both have jobs with W-2 payments where they're getting paid from an employer. Then chances are those they'll just use those W-2s, and that'll be the first thing they'll determine. This is what the parent's income is. Then they take that combined parents' income and they use the formulas that they got to determine what child support should be. Another thing they take into consideration is the number of children that you have. And my son just came home from working out, so you can hear the dogs barking in the background while he gets out of his truck. So the second thing they're going to look at is the number of children you have. The third thing they're going to look at is what the out-of-pocket child care expenses are if you have kids in like daycare or before and after school care. They're going to look at those. The fourth thing they're going to look at is if one party is paying health insurance premiums for the kids. They're going to take a look at that and consider that as well. They're also going to consider any extraordinary expenses that the children may need or a child may need. For example, if you have a special needs child, those extraordinary expenses might get calculated in as well. Or if you have children that are already in private school and they become accustomed to private school, then you may have those expenses incorporated into the formula as well. And then the last thing they might look at is the custodial arrangement between the parents. How many nights the child or children is spending with each parent is something they're going to look at. So the next question is, once we take into all those considerations, what formula do we use in a particular case to determine what child support should be? Well, there are 3 worksheets that North Carolina has for determining child support, and they're basically called Worksheet A, Worksheet B, and Worksheet C. And each one takes into account some slightly different factors to determine what child support should be. For example, Worksheet A, which is what we use in most cases. Worksheet A is If one party has primary custody of the child or children, and the other party has secondary custody of the child or children, and the party with secondary custody has the children less than 123 nights out of the year, you're going to use worksheet A. And it's going to take in all those other things I discussed, and it's going to spit out a number. And that's what child support's going to be. Worksheet B handles things a little differently. Worksheet B is a situation where both parties have the children more than 123 nights. It doesn't have to be equally, but if both of them have them more than 123 nights, you're going to use worksheet B. And then worksheet B is going to use sort of a little different calculation, but you're going to take in all those other things I spoke about, put them into worksheet B calculator, and then it's going to tell you what your child support would be, either what you'll be paying or what you'll be receiving. And worksheet C is not used nearly as often because it's a bit different situation. And that is, let's say you have two children and one parent is going to have primary custody of child number one, and the other parent is going to have primary custody of child number two. So basically the children's living arrangements are split, which doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. You might have an older child and a younger child, for example. But if that's your situation, that's how, either through court, when you go to court for custody, or the arrangement you worked out with your spouse, that one of you will have one child primarily and one of you will have the other child primarily, then you're going to use worksheet C. And you're going to take into consideration all those other things we talked about, and then plug that into the formula in worksheet C, and it's going to tell you what child support should be. Now, the interesting thing for folks to know is you can find the child support calculator and the worksheets online. If you just Google North Carolina Child Support Guidelines or North Carolina Child Support Calculator, you're going to be able to find that. And then you can see the variables I'm talking about. And if you know the numbers for those variables, if you know how much each parent makes, if you know what health insurance premiums are, if you know what work-related child care costs are, you'll be able to put those into the formula and run your own costs, and you'll be able to see what you're going to pay for child support or what you're able to receive for child support. And once those numbers are run, once somebody uses the guidelines in the formula and those variables are put into the formula, that's what child support is. Pretty much. The judge is going to go off of that, and they're not going to modify that. They're not going to go from that, except for under extraordinary circumstances. So, like I said in the beginning, it's a mathematical formula, and once you know the variables and you pick the right worksheet, you're going to know what child support should be. So the next thing I have people ask all the time is, how long do I have to pay child support, right? If you got a 2-year-old, you got a 5-year-old, you got a 12-year-old, how long do you have to pay child support? And the answer is basically this. You have to pay child support in North Carolina until your youngest child turns 18 or graduates from high school, whichever happens last. So if you have a child who's going to turn 18 in January of their senior year, you're going to pay child support until they graduate. If you have somebody who graduates in June but doesn't turn 18 until August, you're going to pay child support till August. It is possible that you would have to pay child support until a child turns up to 20 if they're still in school and making progress towards graduation. But generally it's 18 or graduates from high school. So that's how long you're going to have to pay. I also have people ask me then, how do I pay? Practically speaking, mechanically speaking, how does it happen? And there's 3 ways that you can pay child support in North Carolina. Once you know what it is, you can pay it directly to your spouse by giving them a check. And you should use a check or a money order or some other proof besides cash that you paid it. You can pay it through Raleigh. There's a department in Raleigh that you can sign up for, and you will send it to Raleigh, and then Raleigh will send it to your spouse. But that way the record is kept in Raleigh. And the third way that often gets done is wage withholding from your job. So if your child supports $500 a month, they would withhold $500 from your paycheck, and it would go to Raleigh, who would then give it to your spouse. A lot of people prefer that because then they don't have to worry about paying it. It comes out of their check each week, and they don't have to worry about trying to figure out when and how to pay it. Other people prefer that not happen that way. You can do it voluntarily, or sometimes the court will order that it be done that way. It's probably for sure going to be ordered if you've missed payments in the past, and they'll go to wage withholding to make sure you're getting your payments. Next question I get a lot of time is, can child support be modified? Or how do I modify child support in North Carolina? There's a couple of ways that can happen. One, once a child support order is entered, you can ask the court to change it if there's been a material change in circumstances to the minor child's needs. That doesn't necessarily mean to your ability to pay, but to the minor child's needs. So if you're the payor and you think the minor child's needs have changed so they don't need as much money, you can ask the court to modify it. If you're the payee and you believe that the child's needs have increased, you can ask the court to increase child support. That's done with a motion that you file with the court. The second way that it can be modified is every 3 years after an order is entered, if you run the calculations on the situation as it stands then, it's been 3 years since your last order, you run the calculations again now, and if there would be a change of 15% or more using the guidelines today versus what was used 3 years ago, whether it's up or down, then child support will be modified. So if you run the calculations every 3 years and you run it this time, and based on the incomes of the parties, the needs of the children, all those things we've already discussed, if child support would increase by more than 15%, you're entitled to an increase. By the same token, if it would decrease by 15%, the payer is entitled to a decrease. So that's the second way that you could modify it. The third way that it's going to be modified, and this is pretty easy, is let's say you have 3 children and you're paying child support for 3 children, but your oldest ages out. In other words, turns 18 and graduates from high school. Now you've only got 2 children. Then you're going to recalculate child support using the same formulas we talked about already, worksheet A, worksheet B, or worksheet C, but on now only with 2 children instead of 3 children. And that's going to reduce your child support, obviously, or if you're the person receiving child support, it's going to reduce the amount you receive. And then if you've got 3 children and one ages out and then the second one ages out, then you're going to recalculate it again using only 1 child. And of course, that's obviously going to reduce child support. So those are the 3 main ways that you can have child support reduced. And that's basically it. In a nutshell, you should probably see an attorney if you're either requesting child support or you are having to pay child support, so that you can make sure the amount you pay is correct. Because here, once an order is entered, whether it's the right amount or the wrong amount, it's going to be hard to get that modified unless one of those 3 things have happened that I just talked about. So particularly on the first time around, you don't want to get an order entered that's incorrect, that didn't use the right formula, didn't use the right variables in the formula, and you ended up agreeing to or paying child support higher than you should have, or receiving child support lower than you should have, because then you got to go to those 3 ways to change it in order to get what should be going on, which is a material change in the needs of the child. 3 years have passed and there's a greater than 15% variance, or one of the children have aged out. So at least on the front end, make sure you have somebody look at it before you get stuck paying more or less child support than you should be paying. But that's it. That's basically how child support is done in North Carolina. If you ever have any questions, you can email me at bob@probstlawfirm.com. You can call us at 336-721-9090, or you can go to my website at probstlawfirm.com. As usual, if you got a subject you'd like me to talk about on these Wednesdays at 4 live videos, please just shoot me an email or go to our Facebook, Probst Law Facebook page, and let me know what you'd like me to talk about, and I'll put something together for you. Also, please feel free to go to our Probst Law Firm Facebook page and like us, share us. If you got any suggestions about anything that needs to happen, or a way to improve our page or do anything else, please just let us know. We're here to help folks. We know this is a difficult time. For example, maybe somebody needs to reduce child support because a material change has happened in their income because they've been laid off. That's a reason to get child support reduced, at least temporarily. So we know people are having difficult times out there. My team and I are here waiting to help you guys if we can. Until then, everybody be safe. Look out for one another. Care for one another. Peace. Thanks. Y'all have a good afternoon.